Well, welcome back into my studio. Thanks for stopping by. If you've never been here before, what I'm working on is I'm starting an online film school. I'm starting a physical distribution company for independent filmmakers, and I'm taking all of my film education that I've been doing in the classroom over the last 5 years onto the internet so that people can learn a little bit more about media literacy, financial literacy, and also make their films. So if any of those things sound of interest to you, then check out the menu down at the bottom so you can see all of the timestamps. But today what we're going to do is we're going to go through scripted shorts. We're going to talk about that. That was something I learned about this week, which was very cool. Movies are available to rent and buy on broadsofcreative.us. Please go watch them. Those are my features, and all of that money goes back to the filmmakers, including myself, and that way we can make more movies. If you really like independent film and you want more of that to be made, then you're going to have to support independent filmmakers. So that's what I'm trying to do here, is empower you as a filmmaker to go make your film. Let's get it on physical distribution. Self-distribution, I believe, is going to be kind of like the wave of the future. Here in a couple weeks, I'm going to talk about my journey on that, so make sure that you like, subscribe, come back for that as we get into it. Also, we're going to talk about some of the analytics and some of the things that I learned on social media this week through those kind of scripted shorts, and then we're going to talk about what is about to happen over the next couple of months. So let's jump into it. So last week we did our first scripted shorts. Maybe you've seen them. There's a couple of my students that are in college for creative ventures, and they wanted to learn a little bit about the behind the scenes of the business aspect of it. And so they've come on and helped me a little bit, and we're sharing their understanding of YouTube and these new spaces that we can create in. And I am showing them how you turn that into a business and what I'm doing right here with you, and I'm sharing that knowledge. And so one of the things that I found very interesting when talking with them this week was that they liked really, really long form things. And they also liked the scripted shorts where you're learning a technique, but it's kind of funny. And so that's what we did this week. We talked about composition, we talked about angles, and we made a couple of scripted shorts. You might have found this video because of them. And so if that's the case, thank you for stopping by and listening. And one of the things that I learned was they were more apt to watch more of it. Let me reword that. What I learned over the last week of posting these scripted shorts were people were watching further into them than when it was a little bit more off the cuff like this. So I thought that was very interesting, and I'm going to use that kind of information to move forward, that these are just vlogs about the behind the scenes process. If you keep watching, you've heard me say a couple times over, but my school closed after 13 years, and so that's why I'm taking all of this online. And so this is for me to look back of when I am teaching back in a classroom or in any kind of capacity for you as a creative entrepreneur to be able to kind of look back on this and go, oh, these things worked, these things didn't. And if you've been following along, one of the things that I've learned the most about YouTube and all of these kind of places is it's just consistency. And so the scripted shorts ended up asking a different question though. What happens when we take just a little bit more time on it and actually think about what somebody else is getting out of it? And so that was very good from Mitzi and Tam this week to be able to help me with that and be able to do it. So I've tagged them on the videos, so please go give them some love, go follow them, all those kind of things. They're just getting started out in college, and I'm sure they're going to do wonderful things. Their help has been instrumental to being able to get this to move as fast as it has. There's been a lot of feedback, including that Mr. White, which is what they would have called me in the classroom, my personality wasn't coming through the camera, so I hope that's getting closer now. This is very weird to just talk to a camera in a room. You're in my studio, which is just a garage, and it's very weird to do that. So thank you for going through the journey with me and giving me the time to experiment and figure out exactly what it is, but I think I'm getting closer. The other thing that I wanted to talk about, the movies are available right now. So if you haven't been over there, you'll be able to find all of these films. And so Little Hand and The Horror, and I have Seize the Carp. It's up there underneath the plant. So all of the films are on DVD, and they're also on rental. And so I heard a lot of feedback as I was going through this process. People were like, well, why aren't you making them available for rental? And the short of the story was that most places that you would be storing your website and hosting, there weren't a lot of really good infrastructures to be able to rent. So I've been able to figure out how to embed it with a private link and all those kind of things. So you can go to brownsatcreative.us right now and you can rent the film. So what are you waiting for? Go do that. Well, after you watch the video, of course. And then the other thing is they're also on DVD, and those things will be available right now. They're all right there. So I'm also doing a 20% off. So if you've never bought a DVD or never rented from us before, and from us, I mean me, it's just me doing all this, then please head over there and yeah, grab a copy. So you'll get 20% off, and that's off of all of the physical media and rentals. So you can check that out. And then the other thing that was popped up this week is I'm in the process of putting together a bunch of scripted materials. But basically, I'm taking all of this information that I've created and all of this curriculum that I've created over the last 5 years of working with filmmakers and photographers, and I'm kind of bringing this into the internet. And so it's a little bit different process of being able to curate all the information. But I also want to make sure that there's some journalism in there. I want to make sure it's kind of up to date as I'm going through. So right now I'm going through all of my lectures, transferring those into scripts so I can provide that information to you. So if there's anything specific about media, the history of media, filmmaking, photography, the creative process, the business, anything like that, I've been doing this for almost 20 years. I've sold a couple films in the traditional route. I'm trying this as the self-distribution route this time to kind of control what is happening with it, because the traditional distribution route was never really very fruitful to an independent, truly independent filmmaker. If you're interested in a whole deep dive of that with all the business and all the finance and everything like that, just drop a comment down below and I'll put that together. But I also talk about it on Substack, so you can head over there. I'll put links to that as well. And then the other thing that I wanted to do as we were getting this kind of curated was I wanted to know how you found this video. I'm kind of throwing out the net far and wide. So Reddit, Instagram, TikTok, YouTube Shorts, all those kind of things, the website. And I'm trying to figure out exactly where people are finding this information. And if you listen to my video from last week talking about NPR and everything, I think it's very important to think about where you're getting your information. How did you get here? How did we get here? How are you and I having a conversation right now through the internet? You don't know who I am. I don't know who you are. Hopefully I will soon. Hopefully you will soon. Hopefully you'll make your film. We'll get it sold. You'll get it watched. All those kind of things. But when we're thinking about the media literacy aspect of it, I want you to consider how you got here. What were the paths and the different places that led you to, us having a conversation right now. And when we're talking about the media literacy thing, I think it's very, very important to start understanding where you got your information. So I hope you will look me up. Please don't just take me at face value. If you don't know who I am, go look at me in some of the other places. You can Google me and you will find a lot about me. I've been making films for a while. Just because I'm new to this kind of platform doesn't mean that I haven't been doing it for a while. But I want you to double check. I want you to look up. I want you to question. I want to have an actual dialogue with you as the viewer and as the creator of what is actually important as we move forward in this new ecosystem of understanding around art making and commerce and everything like that. All right, so I'm gonna take a hard pivot now, because if you're still here, you actually want to hear the good stuff. And what I want to talk about is time and money. I've been seeing a lot of stuff on the internet. I've been seeing a lot of stuff in real life and about the fact of what people perceive as the amount of time/money that they need versus the reality of what's happening. And so I saw something a couple days ago. Somebody was talking about they didn't want to talk to somebody, or they thought that they would not be successful unless they had $250,000 a year. This person put up the video. I can't remember their name right now, even though I just said about learning that. And that's how the internet is. It's just so fast when it comes through, and then you can't find it again. But what I realized in this person's video was that they were saying that only 14% of Americans make over $100,000 a year. I'm going to double check that, and I'll put that in the footnote right now. If that's true, that 14% of Americans make over $100,000 a year, then why does everybody on the internet say that they're making millions of dollars? Something about it doesn't compute. I've been making films for a very, very long time. I still, to this date, have never made over $100,000 in a year, and I would not equate that to my success. I would not equate money ever to what makes me successful. And I think that there is a conversation to be had about what money actually provides you. Money provides you with time. So a lot of times when I got extra money, I'd have to pay somebody to do other things because I didn't have the time to do it. If I simplified my process and I simplified my creations, then I could do it all myself. And then I realized The time was the process. I loved the process. So what happens if we went down to a little bit less money or a little bit less budget? How does that curate with that? And so with that being said, my feature film Seize the Carp, there were a lot of people when I posted that trailer and what the film is on TikTok and Instagram and a couple other places. Most of these comments were on TikTok, but it was like, of course you can make a movie for $7,000, but why would you? Why would you? That really stuck in my head, the why would you? And that's why I'm here today talking about it. Is the why is because that film would still not be made if we had made it for anything more than $7,000. We talked about it. The movie was improvised. The movie was with non-actors for a lot of the parts of it. The lead actors had never been in a feature film before, had never been a lead in a feature film. The cinematographer had never shot a feature film. I had directed 2 other feature films, so I had a little bit more track record, but I knew to go on the journey with these people, it was never going to happen unless we funded it ourselves. And that's what we did. So we funded Seize the Carp by ourselves. We own it as a collective entity, these people that worked on it. So if you buy a copy of the movie, then you directly give us money back from the money we invested in the film so we can make another movie, or we can do whatever we need to do with that creation or with our own art making or whatever we're working on. And so the answer to that question that somebody asked is like, why would you? I would say, why would I? Because it was the most fulfilling film I have ever made. It's also the only feature film where I've ever been able to pay everybody up front, which seemed really strange when we started working on it, that we were able to pay people up front. The other thing was that we were working with family members, some of which have passed on since the movie has been created. There were real stories and real jokes and things like that because we were working with non-actors, we were working with grandparents, we were working with family members, and they were able to feel free because it was just us with a camera. If I included 10 or 12 people in the crew, they would have never felt that free. And so I would challenge you to think about, is there a cheaper, inexpensive version of your script that you and your friends can make? If the answer is yes, then what are you waiting for? Nobody is going to knock on your door and tell you, hey, I want to make your movie. I've been doing this for 20 years. Every feature, every short, every commercial, every documentary has been from me and the people that have been pushing it forward. We've never had outside money. We almost did once, that fell apart, then we had to do it again. So if you can do it just a little less expensive and you can move forward with your creative team, then you get to control the creative outlook of the project. You get to make everything. You get to make the artwork. You get to make the posters. And I know some of you are going like, oh my God, I got to make all of those things. Nobody's going to do it for you. Even when I've had somebody help with it, usually it'll take longer because if you're asking for help, it's always going to take longer. Sometimes that's okay, sometimes it's not. How long are you willing to wait for somebody to give you permission to make your film? The answer for me was, I'm not going to wait. That's how I made the 3 features. One was $30,000, one was about $14,000, one was $7,000. You can see it getting cheaper and cheaper each time, less and less people, but that also means I'm doing more work. Every film I've worked on, I've helped with the lighting. I've edited. I've created trailers. I've created posters. I created all the DVDs. I created all of the branding. And so it takes a little bit longer, but that's slow and steady. And if you can think about this is a 40 or 50 year career, then it's a little bit different game than are you trying to do it for just now. If you're just doing it to become famous or get a lot of money, or there's a lot of reasons we all do this and we all have our definition of success. Once you figure out what your definition of success is, I think it makes everything a little bit clearer. Mine was never money related, but it has led to being able to be financially secure over the last 15 years by kind of opening up the blinders a little bit and looking over here, looking over there. I never thought I was going to end up in a classroom teaching, and then I started 2 film programs. I never thought I would make 3 features, and now I've made 3 features. I never thought that I would be able to create a distribution company and start that. And that's where we are now. So it's this journey, it's this really, really long process. And going back to time is money, all you're trying to get is the money so you can get your time back. What if you just do it yourself and then the money grows somewhere else? I don't know. These are the kind of things that I'm thinking about now that I'm getting a chance to do it again. And this is probably the 3rd time that I've restarted in this creative business. And I'm very, very excited that you stopped by. I'm very excited that I get to document it this time and I get to share it with people. And hopefully, I don't know how this is going to end. I don't know how it's going to go. But hopefully, when we get to the end, we'll be able to see that it was just being consistent. And because I think that's really what it is. So thank you for stopping by today. I know it was less about the business and the actual particulars, but I think I'm going to start changing it up and just give you a little bit of the process of how did we get here and move forward with that. So if you want to see some of the more specific things, let me know. I'll add it in next week. But with that being said, do something nice for someone, stay creative, and I'll see you next week.